Welcome to the Lead Pedal Podcast with your host, Bruce Outridge, where he talks all things trucking. Now let's get rolling.
Are you still working for a Driver Inc. style company? Do you even know? This is getting worse, not better. And we're going to talk about Driver Inc. today and why you as a driver had better stay away, because they are changing things, my friend, and you do not want to be there. Hey, before we get to that, though, let me tell you about a Driver Inc. company, a non-Driver Inc. company, and that's our friends over at Rosedale Transport. That's right, they don't do Driver Inc. over there. They are a professional company, been around for over 50 years, very well respected in the industry, have opportunities in local, regional, highway, and owner-operator positions. They have 15 terminals across the country and have been around for over 50 years. Friends, that's a stable company. That's right, Rosedale Transport. Go to rosedalegroup.com and you can just click on the careers tab to find out exactly what's going on over there. Okay, so let's get into Driver Inc.
Be sure to share the podcast on your favorite social media channels.
All right, so I just had this come across my LinkedIn from Truck News again. Driver misclassification crackdown and the threats of big fines forcing fleets to change payroll models. Yay! Should I just be doing applause at this time? I think so. I think I got to tell you. I am exhausted. I don't know about you, but I am exhausted talking about Driver Inc. It has been going on since the beginning of time. It's just gone crazy. It's gone just absolutely crazy, not just in our industry, in all the industries. Everybody's having problems with it. But trucking, because of the low barrier, has been absolutely just taken over by Driver Inc. And if you don't know about Driver Inc. or you're working for a company with Driver Inc., you have some issues coming up. We're seeing a correlation between road safety and Driver Inc. We've talked about it before on the podcast. This is not new. And is it shifting? You go to a job fair now and people are actually asking for Driver Inc. I don't know whether they know about it. I don't know whether they are, what they're doing about it, but they are actually asking for Driver Inc. Now, I heard one of my friends who have a podcast in trucking, I will leave the name out of it, did an episode not too long ago with a driver who was involved with Driver Inc. That driver had lost $40,000 of pay and are now trying to sue the company. And was on the podcast saying, oh, nobody told me. We've been talking about it forever. The industry's been talking about it forever. Every conference I go to. But it's like social media, friends. The people he talked to only said there's no problem with Driver Inc. It's just like social media. If you only talk to the people who are doing it, nobody's going to tell you Driver Inc. is bad because they don't even know it's bad. They're doing it and they're making money at it, and so why don't you too? Well, things are changing, my friends. It might look good on paper, but you know what? When it comes to safety, accountability, and fairness, it is out the window. Now, I am in business for myself, so I am not about, we're always looking for a way to make a little more profit, save a little more on expense. I get it. I totally get it. And as far as vetting every trucking company and all of that, well, that's too. But I can tell you that there's a lot of people. So what are they doing? Well, according to this article in Truck News, and again, Alberta is taking the lead on a lot of stuff. Alberta's taking the lead on Red Seal. Alberta is really cracking down on Driver Inc. And apparently, out in Edmonton, this one fleet contract management firm has helped 6 Alberta fleets convert from Driver Inc. to company drivers. Why do you think that is? Because drivers are getting ripped off. So the same drivers that are asking for Driver Inc. come back later on and go, oh, we lost our whole paycheck and I'm not insured and blah, 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 blah. That is what's going on in the industry, my friend. If you don't know what Driver Inc., let me just share this with you. If you don't know what Driver Inc. is, drivers when you are misclassified, so you're actually an employee, but you're operating as a contractor. So you go to a company, they say, yeah, we'll hire you on. They give you a truck, they give you your runs, they pay you, all that kind of stuff. But they show that you're incorporated. They make you go and become incorporated, but you have no write-offs. So you're not really in business. It looks like you're in business for yourself. The problem is they're not taking any taxes off, which makes you look like you're making more money. And they're also not paying their payroll taxes, which they're supposed to by law, which even I have to do as a small incorporated business. I have to pay my own payroll taxes, even though there's only 2 people in this company. And this is the part that people, and it drives me crazy because they're all over us, over payroll taxes. If I miss a month, if I've missed 2 weeks and I get, oh, you're late. Yet these guys are not even paying it anywhere for multiple thousands of employees. It's just totally stupid. Yes, I use the word stupid. Anyway, so drivers are classified as independent corporations. They're paid through their business, so they're not taking any tax off. They're just paid as if I sent an invoice into the company. There's no payroll deductions, no CPP, no EI, which means later on in life, you have absolutely no retirement fund. Whether you think there's going to be one there or not is totally a different discussion, so we'll leave that alone. So everybody looks at it because someone who comes to Canada or gets into this thing and they don't understand what they're doing, will look at Driver Inc. and it will look, because people are just thinking of now. They're not thinking 25 years. I didn't think of 25 years from now when I started trucking. I said, oh, I want to make more money today. How do I make more money next year? That's the kind of thing that, so it looks good on paper because for the short term, you're looking like you're taking more pay home to you. The problem is that while companies are moving over to Driver Inc., it may be lowering operating costs for the drivers, for the companies. So that's why they want it. They're avoiding paying payroll taxes and benefits, which of course saves the company a ton of money. Increased flexibility in hiring because they don't actually care whether you are good at driving, licensed to drive, anything. If you have an incident, they usually don't even pay. They take it off you. So you've got all the expenses. You've got no actual equipment or assets to your business. And when something goes wrong, they just say, sorry, you're incorporated. We don't pay you. Why a company would, like this driver, why he would go $40,000 before he realized it's time to get the heck out of there. And now he's going, oh, well, no one told me. I'm sorry. I was not impressed with that for sure. But it also allows them to operate lower so they can cut their rates. So not only are they ruining the drivers that work for them, they're ruining the industry all at the same time. Now, we don't have a correlation. We have a correlation of Driver Inc. style companies that have bad safety records. There's a number of data points that show that. There's also some data that shows that a company that's operating Driver Inc. on the maintenance and safety side is actually doing pretty well because they don't actually want their trucks crashed. That looks bad for them no matter what. But they do have this problem on the employee side. So as far as the risks for you drivers, this is crazy. No employment protection. So, a lot of people come here from other countries to have protection over things like your job, your career, have freedom of speech, that's why they're coming to Canada or to North America in general. And then you get here and you work for a company that you have none of those rights. Or you go to a benefit that has no benefits or job security. Tax liabilities and compliance. If you don't understand the tax and compliance part of that, when you sign on as an incorporated business, you are missing a big step of being an incorporated business. In business, you have to do all of those checks and you're responsible for all of those. And I can tell you that CRA does not care whether you said you had a bad day or your mama passed away. They don't care. You still owe them the tax dollars. And then there's, of course, the legal idea of being misclassified as fraud. Okay, that's been coming up a lot. When it comes to road safety, the lack of accountability is even more because if someone's not paying their drivers and does not care about their drivers, do you think they're really worried about their trucks? No, they're not. They don't care. So they're pushing you to run harder because the harder you run, the more money they make. They don't worry about training and standards because you're incorporated. They actually don't have to train you. I don't know if people realize this. When you're an employee, the company has to make sure you're trained. When you are in self-employed or incorporated, they don't have to train you. Most of them do just to cover their butts to say, hey, we did tell them. But they actually don't have to. They don't have to include an owner-operator in a safety meeting. They might suggest you be there, and if you're an owner-operator that's smart, you'll keep up on what's going on, but you don't actually have to be there. So they don't have to verify your records because you're responsible for that training. You're supposed to keep yourself up to date and training and all that kind of stuff. You're just contracting to them. And if it gets to a point where it gets too bad as far as enforcement, they go, oh, well, we'll just get another contractor. So that's how they're working at it. And it creates an uneven playing field for a lot of compliant fleets when it comes to, we're now seeing that shift. That's what's been going on since basically the pandemic, maybe just before the pandemic. And it's now a big problem across the board. Okay, so a lot of the reputable carriers, we're seeing safety go down in the roads. We see training going down. We see a lot of stuff going down. And now there is a challenge because things have gotten so, I don't know how much lower we're going to go, but I can tell you that from all the conferences and associations and stuff that I'm part of, we're already at the lowest, which is why you're seeing now experienced drivers talking about things like Red Seal and professionalism and all that. We're trying to bring that bar back up. Melt actually hurt us more than helping us. And so I'm hoping that it starts to bring that up. That's why we're talking about it. I want to be part of the solution. I don't want to be part of the problem. And so that is what we're talking about. And hopefully now the public is starting to be aware. When the public is starting to be aware, I can tell you it makes it, once the public's involved, perception changes. We've been talking about it in the industry for a long time. We need to talk about it in the public for sure. So we'll get into it in a minute as to what you should be doing, how you should be doing it, and why you should be doing it. Before we get into that, though, I want to talk a little bit about a place that knows all about your taxes. If you're an owner-operator, then RS2000 Tax Services is where you need to be. And I can tell you, folks, we use them ourselves. They are top-notch. They come to you. They have a team of people that specialize in trucking and farming, so you're not going to get someone who doesn't understand the industry. They'll come to you, they'll make sure they're working with you and your family, and they'll get everything straightened out. So if you are trying to keep money in your pocket and you're a business owner or an owner-operator or even a truck driver, because even as a truck driver, not with Driver Inc., but there are things like meals and stuff that you can actually be writing off of your taxes. And if you're not aware of that, then you're a lot of money in your pocket. So check out rs2000tax.com. Make sure you tell them that we sent you, because I know you're going to get a lot out of that. All right, we're going to talk about what drivers should do, how this is going to change, and why it's important to you. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this.
By far my favorite station.
You're the best. Oh, yeah.
I love you guys.
All right, let's talk about what needs to change here real quick. Let's see. We're going to need to, as a driver, you really need to think about this. You need to think about the short-term versus the long-term risks and what's going to happen here. How does this is actually hurting your career. You may think you're getting in, and you may think you're making some money for a year or two. It's actually hurting your career. With all the background checks and stuff going on, if you're with the wrong carrier out of the gate, you are really hurting your career. So thinking about your career long-term versus short-term are all the things to do that. Protecting your license, your career, and your reputation. We'll be talking about that later in the month. We talked about it last episode a little bit. Protecting your license is key. If you are not protecting your license, I can tell you may as well take it out and just go and do something else. There's a lot of drivers who can't make it in this industry. There's a lot of drivers who love this industry, and you need to decide where you are as far as that goes. And then, of course, the financial traps that show up now. So you're making big money now. The companies thinks they're making big money because they're not paying their taxes. Once the audits go through, and that is what's happening here. There is lots of audits going through. That was part of this operation here. They were saying that to restructure its payroll system, recognize those individual companies are facing fines up to $250,000 or $3,000 per day for continued non-compliance, and a 24-month reach back pay. So they've got to go back 2 years to pay the employees whatever they were owed for those times. And they're doing this really broad across the country. This was just in Alberta, but they're doing it everywhere. They need to do it everywhere and get everybody on the same playing field. And that way you're competing against being a stronger carrier. You know, this affects everything, and especially in a world where we're kind of up and down and things are a little crazy right now. Shippers and stuff are going to start looking for the ones who are actually doing things right and are getting, because a shipper that is shipping with someone who's doing a driver Inc. is actually hurting their brand as well as their own. So it needs to do that. So what needs to change? Okay, so we've already seen that the stronger enforcement's coming in. CRA is getting in this. Employment Canada is getting into this. The Ministry of Transportation is getting into this. Everybody is getting into this, and they are targeting those companies that are running Driver Inc. because there's where we usually see the safety regulations dropping. So stronger enforcement is what's happening. Education for new drivers entering the industry. This is something that we're talking a lot about as well. The MELT program is a joke, and we are looking to revise that. We're looking to extend it. It's got to be redone, and I've been working a lot with PTAC on that as far as being part of their conferences and events, and I can tell you that that is the conversation that's going on right now. You are going to see changes in training, I think, within the next 2 to 5 years that are hopefully going to take us in the right direction. Problem is that 2 years from now, you can do a lot of damage if you don't get it 2 years from now. So all of the industry associations are speaking out. I am part of a lot of the associations, from Fleet Safety Council to PTAC to PMTC, was TTSAO. There's a whole bunch that are out there. I'm usually in those rooms and not part of the discussions, but covering the events, those kind of things. And I can tell you there's a lot of associations upset, and we're all finally starting to work in the same way or in the same road, and I think that's going to be a big thing. So what can you do as far as a driver? How do you avoid a Driver Inc. company, driver misclassification, if you're not sure about it? Well, first of all, this has been my pet peeve since day one. You, as a driver, need to do your homework. All right, enough this walking around, looking at the posters, going, do you drive a truck? Do you have a truck? I don't want to hear any more whining. If you're looking for a job in trucking, step it up. You need to actually step it up and start doing your homework before you sign on with a customer, a carrier. You need to ask questions. You need to look at what's the reputable carriers. And I've heard the argument from a lot of drivers, and we had the same thing back in 1979. I can't get on with a carrier because I don't have any experience. That's actually probably a good thing. There's a reason why they were asking for 2 years of experience, because under 2 years of experience, you don't know what the crap you're doing. So to put you in an 80,000 pound bullet and send you down the 401 is stupid, right? I had the same issues. When I started with a straight truck, driving local. Then I started doing, a little bit of regional highway. Then I started doing a little bit more highway. And then finally I got to doing highway. That took 7-8 years. And a lot of it was done before I hit that 25 mark, if you're a young driver, because I couldn't get insurance. The big companies wouldn't hire. There's a reason for that. Now, that doesn't mean you go work for a bad carrier. It just means you realize what you're doing. You're actually stepping and learning as you go along, so you have the proper. Now people are going from warehouse to 80,000 pound missile, and they don't even know what they're doing. So asking questions, understanding that you're an employee. Are you an employee or a business owner? What's a business owner? You actually take tools and do the job. You don't need anything from the company. So if the company is doing everything for you, then you are not incorporated. You are an employee. Make sure you're only working for a company. It's going to be better off for you. Work with reputable carriers. And if you can't get on with reputable carriers, where can I go to get the experience you need so I can get hired on with you? That is what you need to do. And talk to other drivers. Oh my gosh, the amount of people go, I didn't know, I didn't talk. Stop talking to people only in your culture or your sector. Start talking to people who've been around. There's a podcast. Everybody's doing a podcast nowadays. I've been doing one for 10 years. We've got over 1,500 episodes. How do you not know about this? Right? So start talking to people. Start talking to people outside of just where you're come in. Go to shows. There's a show going on almost every weekend in the summer. Go talk to people and find out about the industry. Do your homework. If you're not doing that, you're not ready to be a professional driver, and you should probably go and find something else to do. That's really what you should be doing. All right. So if it sounds too good to be true, if they're offering you too much money, I would ask questions. If they're asking you to be incorporated, you need to question that. If you are not bringing any tools to the game, then you really need to question where you are. And if you're not ready to do any of that, please, like I said, go somewhere else. We would prefer you not to be in the industry and kill people than to either step up and be professional. We'll be talking more about that as we go along. Right. So I don't know whether this is going to change. There seems to be a growing momentum for Driver Inc., but not in a good way. So I'm not sure what's going to happen. It seems to be one part of the population that seems to be more interested in this than the others. So we will see what happens for sure. All right, my friends, that brings us to the end of another episode. Make sure you join us next time. We're going to be talking about pre-trip inspections again. It relates back to last episode where we're talking about out-of-service criteria, and I can see you are really going to need to get on board with this. And again, all of this is kind of together in being a professional driver, which is what we're talking about this month for sure. All right. Hey, make sure you subscribe wherever you're following us. Have you heard of our new Chords and Chrome show? That's a fun show on Lead Pedal Radio. If you want the entertainment side of trucking and music and all that kind of stuff, you want to join us for that for sure. All right, my friends, we'll talk to you later. Be good out there. Don't do anything I wouldn't do, and be safe out there on them highways.
This has been another episode of the Lead Pedal Podcast. For more information or to subscribe to the podcast, visit theleadpedalpodcast.com and be sure to follow the podcast on Facebook and Twitter.